Hey folks, my name is Pierce Fraser. I'm the creator of the Hicks and Draconis role-playing game and running the Kickstarter that you're currently a part of. And this is going to be the first of a series of weekly kind of catch-ups to have a look at the new book, learn some fun stuff about what's coming, and overall just touch base with you guys and thank you for all your help. Which I guess I'll start by thanking you for all your help. We've only been up for about 3 days and we've already blown the lid off the first of the stretch goals, so that is awesome. You're doing a great job if you can keep spreading the word and letting people know who have played the game, who are interested in playing the game, or have not even heard about it even, that we're up and running. It'd be very helpful. This is the first of kind of the new generation of books for HSD, so I'm excited to bring it to you. It features a whole lot of new stuff, and I will kind of take you through it for this first video. So these are going to be kind of fast and loose videos. As a lot of you know, HSD is a solo operation. So I'm putting this together while working on the book, and there isn't a huge amount of time left for editing between all this stuff. Here you can see the map that is featured in the stretch goals a few times. I'm currently dressing it up. It wasn't going to stay this kind of black and white thing all along. Get it prettier. It's becoming more detailed and more interesting as we go on. So these are the stations up here, the Blue Sky stations, very large orbital stations and stuff that some of you can actually pick up as part of stretch goals if you want to. And then these little ones over here are smaller stations, which are just sort of independent operations that you can have your own name on if you'd like for a stretch goal. Assuming these don't get filled up, for those of you who are curious, they will be named off of things that I create for, or I'll leave a few of them open for future tasks as well. This map is designed to give you guys some story hooks. It is certainly not a complete map of the solar system. I don't want you to think this is the only stuff out here. Anytime we have a solar system map, we have to consider that space is very large, right? So there's so much room to put stuff in there that I can't really put it all on one map. I could easily print this map 10 or 15 times with entirely different configurations of stations and never have the same one show up. So this is the first, I don't plan on doing that, by the way. You won't see different versions of this all the time. But don't think that if it isn't on here, it doesn't exist. It certainly can. Okay, so this is a map that's going through, and I'll pull you into InDesign here really quick. And we can have a look at how this is moving along. So what can I tell you about this so far? There's lots of topics about what's going to be in the book that I want to address in weeks that are coming forward. When we get the chance, I was going to scoot this guy up here for a second. Actually, I got to tweet that. There we go. That we can discuss as weeks go forward. As you guys kind of decide that you have questions, post them in the comments. Let me know, and if there's something that I see coming up over and over, I will address it in these videos to give you some answers for you. But you might notice right off the bat that this has a different format from previous HSD books. So the sidebars have changed, the overall layout of the book has changed. We actually have a few landscape pages and spreads in this particular book because it's a lore book, it's not a rule book. You don't have to worry too much about finding things specifically. Like I need to find a rules mechanic right away. So this book is meant to be explored a bit more rather than having direct references to everything. So we've got a few sections where you can turn it sideways and kind of find new stuff in it, enjoy larger spreads. I'll find another one over here that's kind of fun to look at. All right, so here's a large horizontal spread at the beginning of a Mars Code chapter for one of the individual corp chapters. And then within the Mars Code chapter is this large vertical spread that goes into a typical corp town for Mars Co. and highlights different stuff that's inside of it. So we got different sections for their design, their rail system, and sky bridges and kind of fun stuff like that. And each of the megacorps will actually have a section like this. That points out stuff about them. In addition to having these neat little city sections, some of them will have kind of one-page advertisements or asides. This is one from Mars Co. that talks about the Mars Co. Guide to Corporate Violence, like what you're allowed to get away with under contract and fun stuff like that. Another thing that pops up fairly regularly in this book are these little cutouts over here. Down at the bottom, you can see a few of them over here that will just kind of insert themselves into the narrative with character ideas or hooks or how you can use this particular tidbit of information to craft a story, things like that. I'm trying to put a bunch of those in there. I think they're pretty fun. It basically unpacks the data that you're reading here. So there's these big long things about rumors and conjecture and agents that are in there, and then you'll see the occasional blue cutout windows that'll say, this is how you could apply this directly to a character, or this is how you could use this directly in a story, which I think will be fun to play around with. For those of you who were curious or didn't catch it in the beginning, this is not a rule book, so it is not limited to any particular edition of Hexen Draconis. If you are not planning on picking up 2.0 when it eventually releases, this is still pertinent data for 1.0. If you are planning on starting with 2.0 or evolving into 2.0 when the second edition of the book does eventually drop, this is obviously applicable to that as well. And will sit nicely with either one of them. The style in this one, the new fonts that are being used, and the new headers and sidebars and page layouts are kind of tests for how 2.0 is going to go. And obviously, I'm going to make sure they work here before I actually commit to them. But they look pretty good right now in all the test PDF prints that I've done so far. It's less obtrusive than it was in the original book layouts. I thought those were kind of fun, but they did break the crap out of a paragraph, which is of a problem. So this one doesn't do that anymore. It's got a fun little page tabulation up here. I'm going to zoom in on that so you can see it. Dink, dink. So each time we get to a new chapter, this little sidebar here will increment, so you can scroll down the sides of pages and see pretty quickly. I'm on chapter 4, chapter 5, and of course the title is right there too, so you can find out where you are. All without disrupting the paragraph flow to any significant degree. And then page number is bright in the corner down here. Okay. All these little blank open spaces here, this is the in-progress book that's going on. You can see a whole lot of these blank open spots. These are waiting for artwork. So there's page tabulation that's in there to keep that area open. So here's a few pictures that are done. I have a few other ones that are incoming, and obviously more as we get the actual backers in for the custom pictures. Custom pictures are going to work a little bit differently this time than last time, I hope. This is the intention. That I'm going to create sort of, I don't want to say your character here, as that is a familiar term to a lot of people who are probably investing in this book, where you've got kind of a blank pose that will be inserted with whoever picks it up. The problem with doing that in an HSD setting is that we have so many different body types that it isn't particularly realistic. But what it will be is that I will find out what kind of characters you want, and you pick whatever characters you want that pick the setting. So if you have a macro character or a tar character or whatever the case is, you let me know what it is, you give me the description, and then I and the other artists will pose them in ways that actually work nicely with the overall theme and layout of the chapter, so that we can get some more themed images. We got some really pretty pictures in the previous books. The problem is they never really related to anything. They were just character art, and the reason for that is obvious. It's because the layout is created before the images. So it's sometimes difficult to collaborate exactly what a character wants, or a character's player wants, with whatever was written on the page at the time. It's much easier to just kind of batch process them. But for this one, I'm going to attempt to keep things more themed than before. So you will end up with pictures where you will be with other people if you are one of those backers, and you will potentially be doing stuff that you weren't expecting. Don't panic about it, right? My job is to make the book look good and flow well. So you will look good and flow well with the scene that you're in, I guarantee. But it'll be a more exciting picture. It'll be more dynamic. You'll be interacting with things. There may be some background and some other stuff to get it in. And the other advantage of this is because we have multiple people in the same scene, I might actually be able to open up some more character options. So we started with those 5 that filled up pretty quick within the first day or two. But as I get further into the formatting of the book and I find out how many more we need, we can probably expand that a little bit. And I already know that on the back cover of the book, we have one particular backer that has decided to feature a micro character that I can actually fit snugly in front of another person, so that will provide room for a third, if somebody was thinking about getting that. As the IRPF chapter doesn't have a background yet. But we're working with the ship image for the bottom because they don't typically have corp towns. So lots of fun stuff coming through here. Up near the front, last little thing I'll touch on for this video. All the way up. There's this big section here that goes into the original war and the Fall of Humanity. This is not a line-for-line repeat of what came in the core rulebook by any means. This is a revisitation of basically what's taught to vectors and a comparison between what's taught and what's missing. There's a breakdown of 7 different stages of actions that took place in the times before Mars, basically. What happened in them, what vectors are taught in them, and then all the stuff that the current history of Sol kind of wonders about. And it doesn't necessarily give you an exact rendition of what actually occurred from like a view camera of the time, because Canon Doubt is actually part of this franchise. There's a lot of this stuff people just don't know. And that's part of the stuff you're supposed to tackle with. But it does break down what is obvious propaganda versus what is just not a known thing. And lets you know that this thing that was asserted in the core rulebook is inflated because it was written by basically the victors of a war who wanted to make the enemies look bad. So there's all sorts of things that are brought up here that will make you kind of question the original content a bit. And I think that'll be a lot of fun for people to see what the, quote, crazy conspiracists of Sol are considering about what happened in the past and how many of them might actually be right. So let's keep it going. It's awesome. I want to give a little shout out to some fans who are doing a great job helping promote the franchise and thank them for their assistance. I'll put the links because I don't have them right here in this pre-edited video. I'll toss them up in the update where I put this. But we have a Twitter user named Samara who is doing some great promotion by having a couple contests. They're really fun. One of them is super easy. You just retweet her tweet that is showing the Kickstarter is starting, and you'll be entered to win an HSD Mini from the HSD Miniatures site. If you haven't seen that, it's a very cool new system that we brought up through other Kickstarters. I'll toss it on the screen here really quick as it loads up. So this is the HSD Miniatures site. Zoom over here. If I click on one of these people, it'll take me to a custom assembly area that you can actually swap out heads, swap out torsos, right? Swap out legs and tails. And thanks to the recent upgrades to this from the Kickstarter that just finished not too long ago, we actually have things like Tarek bodies now. Right? So you can make all sorts of great characters out of this using this particular system. And you will be entered to win a free code if you reblog that particular, or retweet that particular post. And the other contest she has going on is a creative contest. So if you create anything related to the franchise, it could be pictures, could be artwork, could be cupcakes if you wanted, create something fun related to the franchise and publicize it in some way, and then enter that to her contest. You can be entered to basically be judged and see if you can win yourself another mini that way too. So very cool, very generous. The minis are as cheap as I can make them, but obviously they're not free. So she has invested a fair amount of money into making this happen for you guys. It's pretty cool, right? And the other thing that I was going to touch on was RPPR, which is a very cool podcast. Roleplay Public Radio has a neat HSD-related podcast called Radio Free Demos. That was put up a long time ago, actually, and it still continues to this day. They're diligent about making new content and have done some pretty cool stuff for them. I'm sure they'd like some new listeners. So if you'd like to just kind of listen to people talk about the lore and discuss neat stuff that they've read in the book, they're going to have all sorts of new content when this book drops too. So if you like podcasts and like kind of listening into general trains of thought on that sort of thing, give them a check out. I'll drop the link in the post. Thank you all for dropping in. I'll see you later.